Tonight, Fox under fire. The network admonished Jeanine Pirro for comments she made about Muslims, but so far not a peep about Tucker Carlson and the things he said about African Americans, gays, and immigrants. The head of the group that's been releasing the Carlson tapes joins us. Then, to impeach or not to impeach, that really is the question. Nancy Pelosi says it's not worth it. A presidential historian will weigh in on how it's worked out in the past and how big a political impact it could have if Democrats move forward now. And later, yet another investigation into President Trump's businesses. This time it's being run by New York's Attorney General, starting to hand out subpoenas. Former federal prosecutor joins us to help sort it all out. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman in for Richard French. And we begin tonight with a bad week for Fox News that just keeps on getting worse. It started this weekend when Jeanine Pirro said this on her show.
Omar wears a hijab, which according to the Quran 33:59 tells women to cover so they won't get molested. Is her adherence to this Islamic doctrine indicative of her adherence to Sharia law, which in itself is antithetical to the United States Constitution?
Fox actually issued a rare apology for one of its hosts. Here's part of their statement. Quote, "We strongly condemn Jeanine Pirro's comments. They do not reflect those of the network, and we have addressed the matter with her directly." But so far, not a peep from Fox about Tucker Carlson. Media Matters has been releasing old radio interviews of Carlson making inflammatory comments. This clip is from the first batch that came out. We bleeped out the B and C words.
You know what, in my brief experience, what gets women going is arguing with them.
Really?
Yeah.
Brad, I never use that.
It's true. You debate politics with a woman and just go, just full-blown out there, especially feminism. If you're talking to a feminist and she's giving you, men really need to be more sensitive and this. Actually, men don't need to be more sensitive. You just need to be quiet and kind of do what you're told.
And lighten up a little bit.
Love it. Well, I love women, but they're extremely primitive. They're basic. They're not that hard to understand.
Alexis Stewart, we run into her all the time.
She seems extremely...
I like to hear that word out of, I stepped over him. She seems, what now? Go ahead.
She just does seem a little but I heard her on with him, and I just wanted to give her the spanking she said.
I actually watched.
And then there's this from the second batch that Media Matters released.
Iraq is a crappy place filled with a bunch of, semi-literate, primitive monkeys.
But I just have zero sympathy for them or their culture, a culture where people just don't use toilet paper or forks.
White men have, they've contributed some, I would say, like creating civilization and stuff. I think they've done a pretty, whatever.
Obama would kick your ass playing basketball.
Yeah, of course he would. Play basketball? Come on.
He's black, say it. He's a real brother. Hey, do you think
I don't know how black he is.
There's some really good, immigrants. I just think it's, people who come to this country ought to have something to offer. Be hot, be really smart. You know what I mean?
Again, nothing from Fox so far on those comments, but Carlson himself responded on his own show last night.
Fox News is behind us, as they have been since the very first day. Toughness is a rare quality at a TV network, and we are grateful for that. Second, we've always apologized when we're wrong, and we'll continue to do that. That's what decent people do. They apologize. But we will never bow to the mob. Ever. No matter what.
And for more, we turn to Media Matters President Angelo Carusone. Angelo, before we get into the specifics of what Carlson said, and they are revolting, these clips are all between 8 and 13 years old, and we're all set on a shock jock comedy show. Given the age and venue, some people are going to discount the impact of what he said. In your mind, should they be discounted? And also, why dig them up and go public with them now?
So I don't think they should be discounted, although I understand why people would do that. And I would just underscore that there's a lot of stuff here that we didn't publish, in part because it wasn't really connected to anything he's saying now. And that's really the main ingredient here. The reason why all of these clips are not only just revolting but relevant is that they directly echo things that he is currently saying on his program on Fox News today. And so they help people understand it more. They provide context to his perceptions and worldview around women and some of his bigotry, and that's why they were relevant. So that's really the key ingredient.
And so you don't think there's any difference between the Tucker Carlson on the tapes from 2006 to 2011 and the Tucker that we see every night on Fox News? Same guy?
Absolutely not. It's definitely 100% the same person. And that's partly why we looked at things that he didn't just say once, but said repetitively. So when he was attacking women's looks or using some expletives to describe them, we tended to only focus on things that he did repetitively in the past. And that's the same thing as it relates to the bigotry side of it. When he was consistently reinforcing people in the Middle East as somehow secondary to white people, and inferior, the idea that he was repeating that over the course of, say, a few years, I think reinforces his worldview today when he gets up there and says, immigrants are going to make America dirty, like he did back in December. That was one of his biggest examples and reasons for why he was explaining that Middle Easterns were inferior 8 years ago, is that he kept referring to them as dirty. And so I think that's where, when you start to overlay what he was saying in the past to what he's saying now, they really do line up and help give a lot more texture to it.
Given that continuity between that Tucker and this one, was there anything on the tapes that you heard that surprised you or particularly revolted you? I think the thing that really surprised me was that he actually predicted and called for Donald Trump. He said that as a person, as a voter, he would really be excited by, and he believes that the rest of the conservatives would be excited by, a person that just gets up there, runs for president, calls Muslims out for what they really are, and says that he's going to eradicate them all. And that was very shocking, but it was surprising because that is largely one of the themes that Donald Trump ran on. The one that I found revolting was the idea that not only was he consistently saying that the people in Iraq and Afghanistan were inferior, but that they should just shut up and listen. That somehow not only should they be identified as inferior, but that they should be subjugated. And that part I was especially revolted by. A cynic might look at the content of what Tucker was saying, sexism, racism, questioning if Obama is black, homophobia, and they might actually argue that you're creating a bit of an advertisement for Tucker Carlson's show, considering all the white nationalist talking points that he tends to repeat on the program. I'm curious how you'd respond, and what's your goal with this? You're an advocacy group. Are you trying to get him off the air?
I think the bigger thing is, one thing that's really important is on the timing is two things. One, there's that really explosive Jay May article that came out, the New Yorker article that came out last week. And what it did is it really illustrated the synergy between Fox News and the White House. And specifically, it showed how Fox News is informing the president's worldview and then subsequently encouraging or shaping his behavior. So there's, I think, some degree after that article to go back and think about how and what kinds of behavior and worldview Fox is actually informing Trump on, and how that could affect all of us. So that's one piece. In terms of the bigger objective, one thing that's important is I think I would think about it a little less about getting him off the air, although that could be a consequence. I'm more concerned about the incentives behind it. Right now, tomorrow, Fox News is actually meeting with all of their advertisers and their big media buyers, and they're making a pitch to them. What they're telling them is you should buy more ads in 2020 for higher rates because people watch our program, and they give them this packet of what Fox News is about. And obviously that's going to paint them in the best light. And I think a part of this is to give those people that are in the room some additional context and some business intelligence to inform their decisions, because I think some of what happens on his show today either just gets sort of skirted by, or because it's sort of couched or qualified, it doesn't get the kind of attention that it may get when it's sort of said in the unfiltered ways that it was during these clips.
Interestingly, Fox News admonished Jeanine Pirro for her comments about Representative Ilhan Omar, even Fox seeming to agree that what she said was Islamophobic, and yet radio silence on Tucker Carlson. Why the difference?
Well, there's actually been a development there, too. They went so far as to authorize him to say last night on his program that he has Fox News' full support. And when some reporters sort of incredulously reached out to Fox just a few hours ago today on Tuesday to assess whether or not that was accurate, Fox News reiterated that they in fact support him. I agree. There is a little bit of a disconnect and a contrast there. I would point out that they only admonished, Jeanine Pirro made those comments on Saturday night. They got all of their viral attention right around then and into Sunday. But Fox News was silent on it. They ignored all requests for comment. They only responded 1 hour after the Tucker Carlson controversy on Sunday evening sort of took off, sometime around 9 o'clock on Sunday night. I don't think if the Tucker Carlson scenario played out that they would have actually responded at all to Jeanine Pirro, to be honest. And I think part of the reason why they had to do that is because of that meeting that I alluded to earlier, that you have to be able to point to something to show your potential business partners that, hey, we have some standards, some line. And I think allowing both of these two controversies over the weekend to go unchecked, it just wouldn't have been palatable. The other thing that is kind of scary and should disturb all of us is that Fox News is sort of scared of their own audience. And not only did that come out a little bit in the Jane Mayer article, but it's come out pretty consistently over the years when there's been controversies. They will admonish some people like Jeanine Pirro that have less, say, potential power and influence over the Fox News audience, but are much more forgiving when it comes to their hosts like Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson, because if they were to admonish Tucker, there would be a backlash amongst Fox News fans.
Interesting. Before we run out of time, Angelo, what, if anything, in your mind changes Fox News Channel? Republican lawmakers aren't going to boycott all of a sudden. They need Fox too much. Is it advertisers? Is it viewers? What changes Fox?
I really believe that they had opportunities to change over the years. They haven't. And so now they're going to be forced to do it. I think if this potential media event that they're doing tomorrow goes poorly, which their own head of ad sales actually acknowledged a few months ago that they were seeing soft advertiser interest, which is why they were sort of elevating this to do this big event at their headquarters. I think what you'll see is that shareholders will sue them for breach of fiduciary duty. And that sounds sort of really far out there, but the strange thing is it's not strange for the Murdochs. Back in 2011, 2012, shareholders had to sue them for sort of some similar stuff. And they won a $150 million settlement, and Rupert Murdoch had to take action that he otherwise wouldn't have taken unless he was forced to do so. Basically, they sort of sometimes ignore the financial interests in order to pursue political interests, and it has taken their shareholders to file lawsuits in the past in order to get them to change. I think that's the stage that we're at.
Angelo Carusone is the president of Media Matters for America. Great job on the scoop. Thanks for a few minutes, Angelo.
Thanks so much.
And up next, many Democrats are calling for the impeachment of President Trump, but Nancy Pelosi says it's just not worth it. A presidential historian joins us to discuss the politics of this and whether it's been worth it for the opposition in the past when it comes to impeachment.